Hello everyone, my name is Marin Chesney and welcome to this Talks at Google event. For much of his career, Chris Voss has been at the forefront of negotiation technique. He was a member of the New York City Joint Terrorist Task Force for 14 years and lead crisis negotiator for the New York City division of the FBI before becoming the FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator. He currently teaches business negotiation in the MBA programs at the University of Southern California and Georgetown University, as well as having taught at Harvard University and guest lectured at Northwestern University. He is the founder and CEO of the Black Swan Group and author of the new book, Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if Your Life Depended on It. Talks at Google is honored to welcome him here today.
Thank you very much. I got to tell you, with that introduction, it makes it sound like I can't keep a job, doesn't it?
So to begin, you and I were talking earlier, and I was telling you about how I read your book, and it is full of incredibly practical tips and great stories. And I told you about something that happened to me this morning.
Right.
In preparing for this talk, I was going through all of my notes and all of the tickets and making sure that everything was in line. And I realized that I had forgotten to request director's chairs for us to sit in. And so I sent out a quick email of, oh shoot, I'm so sorry, I forgot to request these chairs. Is there any way that we can get some chairs for the day? And the response was, no, we're cleaning up from I/O. Sorry, but we can't get them to you today. And one of the lessons in the book is that no is not the end of the conversation, it's the beginning of a conversation. And me, before reading this book, would have said, oh, okay, I got a no, that must be the end. But I really did think of the book and think, okay, no does not mean absolutely not. It means what's a different approach? What's a different question that can be asked? And so I responded, well, is there any way that I can go pick them up somewhere? I understand you can't drop them off, but can I go pick them up? To which I got a response, actually, I was able to arrange it so that they can be dropped off for you. And it worked. It was amazing. Yeah, that was just one of the many topics that you highlight in this book.
All right, so first of all, thanks for getting me a chair. I appreciate that. Now, the interesting thing about that story, though, is two really important points. First of all, there's a lot more space between yes and no than most of us realize. Sometimes we get into sort of a binary on-off, yes-no sort of thinking, and we don't realize how much space there really is there if we just give the other side a little bit of time to sort of think, a moment, if you will. There's some data out there that indicates to us that a moment is just 3 seconds, and three seconds can be an eternity for mind process. So the other thing that's also really interesting about that, and I think it's one of the completely different approaches we take in the book, is what happens after the other side says no. Now, early on in my career, I came across a book that I still refer to all the time called Start With No, by a guy named Jim Camp, and Camp's theory was if you make the other side feel free that they can say no at any time, then it respects their autonomy, they'll relax a little bit more, they'll be more willing to work with you, just knowing that it's okay to say no. So we decided to take it one step further and see what happens when someone actually says no. And since yes is protection, or no, yes is commitment, and we don't know what we've gotten ourselves into, which is why we're scared to say yes, but no is protection, that typically what we find is as soon as somebody says no, if they feel protected, they tend to relax, they center a little bit more, and they can think more quickly, which is exactly what happened with you. You inadvertently triggered a no. You remain very pleasant in the way you talk to her, and we know that if we're pleasant to interact with, it actually helps the other person think better because your mind works up to 31% more effectively if you're in a positive frame of mind. So when you're in a positive frame of mind, it triggers it in somebody else and it makes them smarter. Just by smiling at them, you've got a wonderful tone of voice. So she's already making this person smarter by the way she interacts with her. She says, your counterpart says no, which she now sort of centers herself and triggers. You give her a moment in time, and the next thing you know, she's throwing ideas at you and working it out. And that's finding that space between yes and no. And many times it's triggered when the other person actually says no because they feel protected and they feel safe. And people are more likely, once they feel protected and safe, to interact with you. So just in a few short moments, you were brilliant.
Thank you. So after that first no, what's kind of, in general, what's the correct response? You know, you earlier when we were chatting, you said, well, you don't want to you don't want to attack in any way. You don't want to.
Right,
so
right.
what's the right approach after that initial no?
Well, first of all, just to hesitate, give them a chance to think. Because you never know what's going through the other person's mind when you start talking with them. There's probably 4 or 5 things that have been going through their mind throughout the day. So giving them a chance to sort of focus on you is the other thing that no does. And I'll give you another hint. We never call anybody on the phone and say, have you got a few minutes to talk, ever. Because if you say that to somebody, a whole bunch of things start going through their mind. How long is a few minutes? If I have a few minutes, do I want to talk to you? Do I even like you? All these things go through their mind. Whenever we call someone, we say, is now a bad time to talk? And you get 1 or 2 responses on that. The person will say, no, it's never a bad time to talk. What do you want to talk about? And they're very focused. Or they'll say, yeah, as a matter of fact, it is, but I can talk at 2 o'clock tomorrow. And you get a scheduled time to talk. Now, the follow-up to that, if nothing good happens in that space that happens after that, the next most important thing to do is get the other person to say, that's right. Not you're right, but that's right. And you get a that's right when you summarize the situation from the other person's point of view. Don't be afraid to summarize a situation that sounds like it's against your best interests. I mean, that's actually the key to it, and we've broken open a number of negotiations. But it's a summary of what the other person, the fact